Aloha, everybody. Wow, okay, fine, because I learned this a few years back, and when you say aloha, you have to speak back to you, aloha, which I think is very interesting. Anyway, I'm not here to speak. I have a very good friend of mine, also called Steve, from Equinix, and he's going to speak. So I'm really the introducer. So Steve is going to be our keynote speaker today. And Steve Smith, he's the CEO and president of Equinix, the world's leading provider of data centers and interconnection services. Equinix operates over 100 data centers in 5 continents. Their facilities among the most densely networked, connecting more than 4,400 companies and 950 networks. The company is part of the Nasdaq 100 index with a market cap of approximately $9 billion. Steve joined Equinix in October 2007 and has grown the business from approximately $400 million in 2007 to over $2.1 billion estimated in 2013. During his tenure, the business has expanded its presence in the US, Brazil, Europe, and China, and the UAE. Prior to Equinix, Mr. Smith held senior leadership role in HP, Lucent, EDS, and he is a West Point graduate with 8 years of military service. So please join me in welcoming Steve Smith of Equinix.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you very much.
All yours.
Yes, thank you very much. Okay, good morning, everybody. Looks like we might have had a late night with some folks here, huh? We have a lot of empty seats here. Thank you for having us. Thank you for having me, and thank you for spending a little time with us this morning. I have put together 15, 16 minutes of a storyboard that'll go through basically a couple of things. We have a premise that this statement is going to unfold over the next decade. I'll show you in a minute some of the stuff we've learned in the last 15 years that we've been around, with certainly help from people in this room, how we've accumulated a big position with this cloud. And our belief, our premise is that the cloud computing model is the next big paradigm shift that we're all going to experience over the next decade plus. Very similar to what we went through with mainframe to mini, very similar with what we went through when client server came about, very similar with the mobile devices. So our belief is this is real, it's irreversible, and we're all going to experience growth with this. Secondly, I'll give you some perspective on why we believe interconnection is going to be more critical than it has in the past. Certainly you'd expect us to talk about that given what Equinix does for a living, but I think this is going to be a bigger, and the next generation of interconnection is going to be more interesting as we think about the future. And then lastly, our job is to not be in your business. Our job is to help enable you to interconnect and participate with networks and enterprises of all shapes and sizes, and certainly with the new cloud companies that are repositioning themselves. So I want to spend a minute, if you will, for those of you not terribly familiar with Equinix, and just give you a couple slides and tell you what we've accumulated in 15 years. We just passed our 15-year anniversary this past year and have accumulated a quite impressive amount of assets and capabilities around the world, and I'll just give you a level set on that. Then I'd like to give you a little bit of perspective on how we see how this cloud market is going to unfold. A lot of it is happening inside of our data center, so we have we have almost a privileged view if you think about the interaction we have with you and the other players in this space. So I'll give you some thoughts on that. And then I think together, between the cloud service providers, the network service providers, and ourselves and other companies like Equinix, we have a huge opportunity to work together to enable the future. So let me get started. So just perspective. I think we'd all like to be part of a company that looks like this. This is revenue growth over 15 years. We're very fortunate, partially because of the great relationships we have with people in this room. And we've delivered 43 quarters of sequential top and bottom line growth. So we are on our 43rd quarter where revenue was higher than the previous quarter. So I would tell you that in my 6.5 years in this company, we've pretty much paralleled the growth of the internet, if you think about this company. Many of you have also ridden that wave. As we've built this business, we've done 9 acquisitions. We've spent probably in the order of magnitude of $7 billion US of capital building out facilities around the world, and about $2 of those billion were spent on acquisitions to put us in Asia, put us in Europe, make the bet bigger than the US, and then a couple years ago we went into Brazil. So there's been a lot of activity that's gone on to create today, which is arguably the biggest global footprint of a multi-tenant data center provider in these markets. I know this is probably difficult to see in the back right, but this is a quick snapshot of where this company exists today. This is 100 data centers around the world. It's in 15 countries and in 32 markets. Arguably the largest markets in the world where the internet transacts, where your customers are, where your users are, and where we help you grow your businesses. Underneath all that, or within those data centers, it's almost 10 million gross square feet of data center space, so it's a lot of real estate. Part of the reason we are becoming a real estate investment trust. Many of you know that we're on the path to do that January of 2015. This past year, we actually delivered to our customers, many of you in this room, 7 nines of reliability. One of the primary reasons customers continue to pick Equinix around the world is your stuff works. It just doesn't go down. Do we have incidents? Yes, sure we do. But generally speaking, we run the most reliable data center platform in the world. There's a whole bunch of networks. There's 950 plus networks as customers. I think when I first joined this company, I had no idea there were 950 networks in the world. There's probably another 100 that matter. Most of the big tier 1 old ISP, ASPs are customers and help enable what goes on here. We've accumulated 124,000 cross connects around the world, connecting between networks, connecting between content to financial institutions, et cetera. We run the world's largest exchange in about 20 markets around the world that enables a lot of this activity and interconnection. And there's roughly approaching 4,500 customers in these 100 data centers that are connecting with each other, deploying servers, deploying storage arrays, deploying networking gear to make the internet go and to run mission-critical applications. What this does for you as network service providers and cloud service providers, it provides an environment that we internally refer to as a marketplace. You get to sell your services in these data centers all around the world on top of your own data center footprint in markets where you don't put capital and you want to use a company like Equinix. So it's a big, and we refer to it as a platform. So it's a big enabling marketplace. It all started, last slide on background, it started with the networks. It's 26% of our revenue today. So the networks continue to grow as you're pushing out more MPLS, more LTE, 4G, mobility, all the new services you're taking to the market. Obviously, Equinix is helping you deliver that. Then, historically, the eyeballs needed to get to the networks and the content and digital media companies. Pretty much every big digital media company uses Equinix somewhere in the world. Even the big players like Google and Microsoft and AWS, who build massive data centers to run their core infrastructure, use Equinix on the edge or in some market where they don't want to put capital. And so we pretty much have a relationship with almost every big digital media content player on the planet. Enterprise is not as big. And this is something I'm going to talk about in a second with the cloud. So there's only 9% of our revenue has come from companies that aren't networks, are not financial services, or not content digital media companies. Big opportunity for all of us. Followed by financial services, and we sort of dove in deep here with the electronic trading, which is very peculiar to our business. So we enable a lot of electronic trading around the world once all the asset classes went electronic. And then more recently, probably 3 years ago, this percentage might have been single digit. Today, it's 24% of our revenue. So once you see this amount of activity happening in these data centers, you get to the point of view that this is an irreversible trend. This is software as a service, infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, public, private, hybrid. This is all of that stuff going on. And in the matter of the last 3 years, and I'll show you a slide on this, we've accumulated over 1,200 companies that are pure play, public, private cloud providers selling their services out of our data centers around the world. So it tells you something about how real this trend is. Perspective on the cloud. I'll let you read these trends. I threw up 6 trends here that at the end of the day, I think all of us are very fortunate that these trends exist because they do what's on the right side of this chart. It creates a lot of traffic. We know there's a lot of consumption going on in the world, and there's a whole bunch of traffic that's being generated around the world because of these big trends. So as long as these trends remain, I think all of us are going to have the opportunity to be successful. Some of us will be bigger winners, some will be losers, some will not figure this out. But generally speaking, when you're in this travel or this telecommunications media business, there's a heck of a lot of opportunity because of these big trends. When you hear things like there are 3 billion people online, But the believers think there's another half to go. There's another 3 billion out there to bring online. That requires a lot of servers, a lot of storage arrays, and a lot of networking gear. Guess where that stuff goes? In data centers. Guess where that stuff has to get done? Interconnected to provide the service to customers. Big data is probably one of the more unique things with the social networking companies and all this unstructured data they've created. We've all got to store it. We've all got to analyze it. Many of you have to run your businesses by getting to this data and getting better intelligence out of this. We, as a company, just like you do, make most of our decisions on hard data. We have a saying inside of our company, we interrogate the data until it confesses. So we look very hard at our data. There's a lot of opportunity here if you think about this. Mobile may be the biggest trend out there. All the multiple screens and multiple devices we all carry around today, I think that's probably one of the biggest trends that's going to underpin the growth of our companies for a very, very long time. And then lastly, I would tell you that the trading is pretty unique to Equinix. I think companies like Savvis and a few other companies are doing some of this. We do a lot of this, and we enable microseconds of latency on top of the relationships with you, the networks, to enable electronic trading of futures, of equities, of all kinds of asset classes all around the big financial markets in the world, and it's very unique to Equinix. Another point of view that we see happening is that cloud is adopting at a very high rate. And this is a picture on the left side of the public cloud size of the market, and on the right side, the private cloud. Think about the size of this. This is a $120+ billion market that already exists today, on its way to $200 billion. These are the big global public platform players that are providing these access points around the world. And you can see the chart of all the makeup of this. And on the right side, it's our belief, as these public companies become bigger and have these access points around the world, that enterprises, where, by the way, 80% of the world's IT is done in-house today. Think about that. 80% of the IT spend in the world is done in-house by enterprises. 20% is outsourced to an IBM Global Services or an HP EDS. Some of it's co-located with the companies like us. Some of it is managed, serviced, and hosted by you. But that's only 20% of the world's IT. Our belief is as the cloud takes place, a lot of this 80% that's done in-house today, private workload, is going to want to find these public nodes and create this hybrid cloud. And that's what we're making a big bet on. The size of these markets we believe in. So there's going to be a lot of disruption. And I built here just kind of a point of view. These are example companies in these spaces. So for the big public guys, the Microsofts and the Amazons and the Googles and the other folks that are out of the gate very quickly, there's huge growth for these companies. But there's also very big price pressure, right? When you consider Amazon AWS doing 30+ price reductions in the last 18 months, there's an after effect to all the players in this space. Everybody's watching this closely. For you, the networks, there's going to be increased traffic. Nobody debates that. That's a huge opportunity for everybody in this room. But you're also having to evolve your propositions on how to service the enterprises. Everybody I talk to, our CTO Ehab, our Chief Marketing Officer Sarah, everybody we talk to in the market tells us that this is evolving very quickly and the networks are working hard trying to figure out how to satisfy the enterprise requirements. The big outsourcing folks, the IBMs, the HPs, the Accentures, they're trying to assist. So it's disrupting them. Clouds are getting easier to get to, and they've got to help be an enabler and facilitate, so they can't go fast enough. I mean, IBM's if you looked at their results the last 6 quarters, you've seen a very difficult time trying to keep up with what's going on here. It's disrupting. Managed services, I don't think I need to, you know what's happened here. Some of the big telcos have acquired some of these companies to get accelerated cloud strategies. They're providing, telcos are going to be in the cloud business, there's no question about it. And it's going to put pressure on the pure managed services business. Now, if you're a pure managed services business, you're probably going to call yourself a cloud enabler or a cloud company. And we see that happening. Hardware guys are really hurting. So the days are gone where a big HP or a Dell or an IBM can have a complete control of an account. Most companies today are going to best of breed. The big global guys are building their own hardware. So the pressure going on in the hardware circles is immense. I sit on a board of a hardware company in the telco circles, a public company, that the growth, when you look at these companies, the Ciscos and the F5s and the Junipers, these guys are under immense pressure because of what's going on with this cloud stuff. And then lastly, the space that we play in, call it data center space, whether it's multi-tenant, wholesale, retail, whatever you want to call it, we believe certain parts of these workloads are going to require low latency, and we're going to play to that. And we also believe that as a service, you think of IaaS as a service, that type of data center space is going to grow very, very rapidly. Infrastructure activity. Multi-data centers, I think, are going to become a magnet for traffic. The market data suggests that internet data center growth, cloud data center growth is going to grow 4x over this time period versus a traditional data center space. This is market data. This is not Equinix's point of view. This is market data. We see it happening. Workloads. If you look at the lower left-hand side, we all know when a new trend starts, most companies are very concerned about security, performance, reliability, chargeback, all the big things. Guess what? All that stuff got solved over the last decades of big technology shifts. It will get solved in this environment. We're early days. Today it's a lot of testing and developing workloads. But no question in anybody's mind that you talk to who sees this coming, you go up that stack, all that kind of stuff's going to work into the cloud. So we're all going to have to get better at security and reliability and performance and all those things. And on the right side, certain application workloads we're starting to see in our data centers use cases of where certain applications require a certain amount of latency, and we've kind of categorized them in this box. The lowest latency, the most intense, is machine-to-machine trading. As I mentioned earlier, a lot of these customers want microseconds of latency on the back of your networks in our data centers. It used to be milliseconds, has today shifted to microseconds. A flash trader, a high-frequency trader, they have an advantage if they have microseconds of latency. This is a big business. So we're really watching this closely, and it's all about applications. So we think enterprises are going to migrate to the hybrid cloud. No question about it. You can see the market data here. Big global 5,000 companies are working hard to figure out how to get to providers to create this hybrid cloud. Private workload connecting to public access nodes, creating the hybrid cloud. Then down the right side, this is just a kind of a snapshot of all the kinds of workloads that we're starting to see, from bursting to compliant data. It's going to get busier. It's going to get more complex. And then lastly, historically, this is what we've done with you. You've helped enable us in these established activities, from helping scale the internet, which is how Equinix started in the late 90s, to delivering digital content, to supporting mission critical stuff, to enabling this low latency stuff I've referred to. The future for us is helping companies around the world deploy their wide area network on top of your networks. It's helping get these cloud hubs developed, public, private, hybrid, all over the world. Our goal is to use our 100 data centers to get as much public access as we can create in them so that private workloads want to come into these data centers, take advantage of your networks, connect to these public cloud nodes, and create the hybrid environment. That's what we're betting on. That's what we're spending a lot of time on. And then I think direct connect and mobility are going to be critical. So we'll be the on-ramp. You'll be participating in this and making a lot of money in this world. I think infrastructure and software as a service are going to be the big winners. They've been growing at 100% in our facilities over the last couple of years. We see that going to 150 to 160% growth in the coming years. And then lastly, I would tell you that there's roughly $1.4 billion of opportunity for the networks that are inside of Equinix today to service those 4,500 customers. And as we project ahead, I think that spend's going to triple over the next 3 or 4 years. So it's a marketplace. It's a place you can all make money and grow your businesses, because the customers that come to us need access to the networks, need access to the cloud providers to run their businesses. And that's what we're focused on as a company, and that's where we're focused our energy in the future. So with that, my time is up, and I will stop. And I don't even know if I have time for a quick question, but I'll take one if there's a burning question that might have been created here. All right, with that, I'll thank you. I'm sorry I had to go so fast, but it's a 20-minute slot, and I had a lot of stuff I wanted to pass on. But have a great day, and thanks for your attention. Talk to you soon.